Welcome, everybody, to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. We have a fantastic show coming up for you tonight. Andrea Perrin is back in the house. Coming up next. Welcome back, everybody, to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. I'm author and researcher Mike Ricksecker. With me, as always, my co-host is Victoria Monday, and down in the chat room, Alina, moderating the chat. We have a fantastic show coming up for you tonight. Andrea Perrin is joining us once again. We've had her on the show many times. We always have a wonderful and fantastic discussion. But what we want to talk about today, at least a good chunk of it, is she was recently on the Shadow Dimension Docu-Series talking about the old farmhouse, and it was just absolutely phenomenal getting to hear some of her stories, then actually visiting the house and investigating there and experiencing it for myself. So, Andrea, welcome back to the show.
Oh, it's so great to join you, Mike and Victoria. You know I'm crazy about you. It's it's so easy for me. When my father even said it today. I mean, I was shipping books and shipping books and shipping books and it's like, oh yeah, like that book.
Right.
Gobs and gobs of them going out they go. And because I've done 3 events right in a row, right in a row, and I have another big one coming up this weekend, and then the following weekend. Yep, I'm Mass Paracon, and then the UFO Contact in Houghton Lake, Michigan. So this, it turned out, is my busiest month of the year. And I dare not even say that because I don't even know all that October holds for me yet. I think I forgot to write some things down on my calendar for October. I'm afraid. I'm really afraid.
It happens.
It does. I think I have to open up a church. I'm a minister now, and somebody asked me to open up the church for Casadega after they had all of it all redone. And so, and I don't know the date on that, but I know it's a Sunday, and those are all free on the calendar, so that's okay. I'll find out. My father said to me as he was getting ready to take another load of books over to the post office, he's like, I said, oh, by the way, I have an interview with Mike Ricksecker tonight. And he's like, oh, that'll be the easiest thing you do all day. He's right. He's like, yeah, you sit there and you chat with your friends. Oh, that's tough. Yeah.
I love your father. He's fantastic.
Yeah, he really is.
We need to get him on the show, like a joint show with the two of you. That would be fun.
Oh,
yeah. One of those days.
No.
You won't do that?
I spend enough time with him, really, honest to God. No, I'd be happy to bring him on anytime. I would, absolutely. And in fact, I'm sorry, I had to lean over to close the door just as you started the show, and I'm like, oh God, they're already on, and and I'm moving across the screen, and Peanut had to settle down in her little princess palette, and I wasn't quite prepared. I was on the edge of the rabbit hole, just getting ready to jump. But if he let the party begin, that's my Linny right there. That is my Linny. She's mine. Her husband thinks otherwise, but I am telling you, that chick is mine. No, if he stops in to just, wave goodnight, I'll drag him in and let him say hi. Because he thinks the world of you, Mike. He really does. And Victoria, you have yet to meet him, I think.
Just
have you
online.
Not in person. Not in person, yeah.
No.
So if he stops by before he goes off to bed, then I'll drag him in, say hi.
That would be great. Absolutely. So, well, like I said at the beginning of the show, I asked you to take part and share in the Shadow Dimension docu-series, which was released this past May. I interviewed you back in the fall. I think it was just after I had been out to the farmhouse. First time I went through it, I was out there with Carl and Keith, and it was an amazing time. And here we'll put up there's the farmhouse there. And I had a number of interesting experiences there. One in particular in your old bedroom, where over by the by that interior window where I suddenly got lightheaded. And kind of what I wanted to do for today's show was talk about some of those different things that you happen. But I also had a lot of people contact me about your interview segments, that there were bits and pieces and stories in there that they hadn't yet heard from you before. And I want to play, I have a couple of clips I want to play throughout here. So I want to play this one clip from you about the energy there and the energy that you girls supplied to the house. Now, this was a really interesting clip that people have commented on a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and play it here real quick.
I think it's an absolutely mystical, magical, miraculous place that is alive with energy. And, I firmly believe, having studied philosophy, I got a degree in philosophy because of living in that house. I think that everything is energy. Everything that exists is energy. And before there would be a manifestation in the house, our electric bill would go through the roof. And then there would be a major manifestation, and then it would drop back down into normal range. They'll draw the energy from wherever they can get it. I think that one of the reasons why the house was so active while we were there was because we were 5 little, extremely energetic children who brought that into the house.
So absolutely, that was absolutely fascinating. The observation that you had with you girls bringing that energy to the house.
Well, the only observation I have about that clip is I'm so glad my hair looked good.
Oh, you looked beautiful for that interview.
Hidden. Tonight it is hidden. Oh my God, it's got so much sea and salt air in it. It's like, I firmly believe what I said. One of the things that I appreciate about you, Mike, is you draw out, you help me to verbalize my own conceptualizations. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You pull that out. You don't ask, garden variety questions. You literally plunge feet first into the hole. And so consequently, because it's the nature of the questions that you ask that prompt the responses that you get, which is what makes you such an extraordinary interviewer, just across the board. I mean, I don't even have time to watch most of what goes out there in the world that has anything to do with me. And I watch you for you. I watch you for you.
That's sweet. Thank you.
I do, because you are really among the very best in the field at your craft. And I know Victoria knows the same thing. She's thrilled to be paired with you to do this show.
Yeah. I just sit back. I just let him do it.
Oh, Victoria actually does that. She asks a lot of fantastic questions. There are some shows where it's like I'm a little off my game, but Victoria is boom, boom, boom on it. And
she's got it. She's got it going.
Yeah.
No, we're a good team. He's like my big brother, even though I'm, a year or two older.
Yeah, a year or two. Yeah.
Well, it is, speaking of energy, it's the energy that you two bring to your show that is such a highlight and makes for some, very memorable podcasts.
Oh,
hello.
thank you.
Yeah, that's our friend Diane.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Diane.
And Alina.
Yeah, she's our moderator. Yeah, so she posted the link to your website down there, which is thank you, Alina.
Very sweet, very sweet. And people can reach me at my email address too, which I normally don't put out, but I know you have a great following of people that are really in the field, not just those that crawl up from under rocks and hop around the paranormal world and see what they can find. And then, but if anybody wants to reach out to me directly, My website is one way, but I get a lot of garbage come across my website too. So I accidentally deleted a message today from a guy named Will something, and I don't know if he'll ever write back to me again. And I think he wanted me to do a show, and I accidentally deleted it because I get like 1,200 pieces of garbage a day in my trash, and I was moving too fast, and I accidentally deleted his message, and I don't know how to get it back. So I'm just hoping, maybe if he's listening tonight. But if anybody wants to write to me directly, it's lowercase Bathsheba, BATHSHEBA 1680 @gmail.com. So that's my direct email. And I never check the other email accounts. So really, if you want to reach out to me, that's the only way you're going to get me.
There you go.
I'm just, I'm not a person. Everything that I do personally. My dad said to me today, there's going to be a day when you're selling 1,000 books a week, through orders off your website once you hook it up to take orders, and you're not going to be able to do anything else. And he said, you're going to have to get a stamp. And I said, absolutely not. Nope, I won't do it. I write to every person that orders a book from me. I send them little love gifts in the package. I write them a note or a card or a letter. I inscribe the books personally to them. Mike, you've seen me in action plenty of times. It is that personal connection with people that is so important to me. And if I were to lose that, then, what's the point of, doing what we're doing? I just have to be careful, because I have literally thousands of messages on Facebook from 5 different pages that I might not ever see, because I can't sit for hours and hours and answer messages on Facebook. I can't anymore. I have to travel, and now that I'm all vaxxed up and ready to hit the road again, it's it's a lot. It's a lot. And I've been on the road since I've been on the road for a while now. I've lost track. I went to California.
Too many weeks to keep track of.
I know. I made a documentary in Joshua Tree National Park about the Galactic family, which I can't wait to see how that came out. I can't wait. All I know is that we had about 24 people, and a couple of times we got a collective gasp where everyone saw the same thing. And, I'm so glad Jolene, mwah, mwah. She abandoned me on Facebook. Jolene blew off of Facebook. I don't know where she went or why. I haven't had a chance to ask. But this weekend, I did a Strange Escapes with Amy Bruni and Adam Barry over in St. Augustine, which was phenomenal because, there were people there that I had not met before. And so really starting with a fresh crowd is very exciting. It's like feeling renewed. I don't have to worry about, did I tell them this before? Did I tell them that before? I can tell them anything and it's new to them. And that's exciting to me. And that generates its own energy, coming back to the notion of energy. But yeah, in terms of the clip that you used, I really do think that one of the reasons why the house was so activated was partly because 5 kids moved into it. And for years and years before we were there, it was just Mr. Kenyon. And before that, it was just him and his wife, or he and his wife. Ooh.
No,
free in this language.
We're not gonna get you on. Yeah, we're not gonna get you on grammar tonight. But Andrea, you're supposed to be a writer.
Yeah, I know. Screw it.
That's all right.
So anyway, and so it was a relatively, I think, a relatively quiet home, and then we moved in. But I also think that it has something to do with the fact that the Kenyans were the last of a long, long line of one extended family that had lived, and some had died in the house or around it or near it. We were the first outsiders that ever came.
Right.
No, there's no familial or genetic or ancestral ties that we could ever find to the Richardsons or to the Arnolds. But it was interesting that my sister Nancy dated Eddie Richardson. And he, I wrote about him extensively, I think in volume 3. And they were just thick as thieves, those two. They were just so close. And we all just assumed that Eddie and Nancy would get married. We did. And it had a very sad and a very tragic end when Eddie took his own life. And he was, I think, 22 years old when that happened. And so it's, and when he would come to the house would go nuts. It's like, his ancestors, the family that followed Roger Williams down from the Massachusetts Bay Colony, he was a part of the original Rhode Island colonists. His ancestors were. And when Eddie would walk in the house, the things that would happen, and it was routine. It was not something that just occasionally happened. Whenever he was there, the house became very active and almost responsive to him.
So seem to remember those family connections
in some way. Well, I've always said that, the cast of characters in House of Darkness, House of Light is extensive, both living and dead. But the house has the lead. The house has an incredible energy of its own that I don't know if it's accumulated energy, if it's residual energy, if it's because it's built on an aquifer, or what. I don't know what it is, but Mike, having been there, you have to admit there's something about that house.
There absolutely is, and there's a couple more clips that I wanted to play for you, or maybe we'll just do one more, and then there's a photo that I want to show you because I believe with the photo I did capture that energy, but let me play for you this other clip where we talk about the energy. And yeah, the house is built on the aquifer, but you have that well room down in the basement with an open well, and just the way that's built. So this one has Corey Heinzen in it, and I have some commentary by our good friend Johnny Enoch in there as well. So let me go ahead and play this clip real quick.
This room was actually the dairy room. This was actually the cleanest room in the house when the Arnolds lived here, for that 8 generations that they lived here. That's why you have the granite, then you have the limestone that's covering the bricks and stuff like that. Then you have the slate floor. Because this had to be the cleanest room in the house.
It's absolutely fascinating to me that directly below where Carolyn got thrown during the Seance Gone Bad, which is also directly below where Carolyn stood when she saw the Colonial family, is an open well surrounded by limestone and granite. Granite being 55% quartz. This is like a perfect setup for a powerhouse of energy.
When we look at a site that already has energy coming through it, maybe from ley lines, these sort of places that have a spring or a well underneath them. And then when you combine that with granite is this conductor of insulator of electromagnetic energy because of the silica, because it works like those silicon microchips, that this is basically magnifying that energy, it's amplifying it, and these entities can just come through, they can manifest a lot easier.
So it's really the theory that I'm working with right here is that that room, and of course all of the events that happened over the years, but that well room is like its own little power generator, and perhaps that's one of the things that's powering the house, and perhaps also retaining the memories of the house as well. What do you think, Andrea?
I think that that's highly plausible and, in fact, probable. The whole entire cellar is just built with huge slabs of granite. There's horsehair plaster in between these stones. It's a fascinating space down there. I particularly am drawn to let me tell you that some of the experiences that we had in the cellar, we, the children, were either in the well room or they were in the root cellar, which is all the way to the back, to the left, before you go up through that huge big door up into the woodshed. So, and the root cellar was always, very, when we got there, it was very tidy. It was there, there was really no junk laying around. That was not Mr. Kenyon's style. He kept the place very sparse. He had very little furniture, and everything was organized. Everything was in its place. Kind of old Yankee stock, truly. Every for every this show gets a taco finds a new home.
How do I like it? Wait, I'm on.
You can't like it through StreamYard, but those on YouTube can hit the like, and a taco gets a new home, according to Nicole. So.
Yeah.
I already liked it.
I love it. You have such a great following, and really wonderful people that are involved with this show. Awesome.
Thank you.
They're a cut above, I think. Sorry, but
yeah.
I think they're a cut above.
Yeah, they are.
Absolutely.
So anyway, I think that that's highly plausible. There was also a spring that ran from across the street, a natural spring that ran right through the cellar. And there was a cistern where it would fill up the water that could, then be heated. And during the blizzard of 78, they brought in some very, very heavy equipment to clear the roads, and it crushed the road there and caved in part of the spring, so it diverted the water in a strange way. But yeah, it was just water everywhere, and granite everywhere, and the stone wall that surrounds the yard proper, which is about 6 acres, and all the stone walls. And the stone walls seem to have a life of their own. But we would go into the well room, and the floor would literally vibrate. There's a story in the books about Cindy going into the well room and feeling like she was actually being pulled down the well, like it was some kind of a vortex that was literally, and we don't know how deep that well is. I mean, nobody's been able to measure it that I know of. And there's still water in it. And, my father is like, you girls stay away from that. And he put a very large slab of stone on it to cover it. I mean, we had animals. We were afraid,
now it's open,
God forbid, that one of our cats would, go just get too curious and we would lose them. There was also a well on the back of the property, too, that was next to the old cellar hole. There was just a lot of water anomalies and also a lot of lightning. When there would be a thunderstorm, maybe it was the topography, I don't know, but that place would attract lightning like it was in Florida. I mean, really, it was amazing. The thunderstorms that would pass and then almost get stuck there. Like they'd come and they'd stay, and they would just strike and strike and strike the river that ran behind the house. and we'd get lightning strikes where all the hair would stand up on your arms. It was really bizarre. And when they would come through, my father and I would go running outside because, of course, there's nothing more exciting than a good old-fashioned thunderstorm. And my mother would scream at us to get back in the house. I mean, scream at us. You two are going to get killed. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, you're going to hit by lightning, right?
Yeah. She was sure we'd be struck. She was sure of it. And yet, here we are.
Could it be all the quartz around that attracted the lightning? Because I know Yosemite gets so many lightning strikes, and I think that's high in quartz too, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I have so many beautiful pieces of quartz that I gathered at the farm while we lived there.
Aww.
That seemed to literally work their way up to the surface of the ground. Like there could be walking through the backyard one day and you wouldn't see anything. And then the next day, it's almost like a gift was starting to protrude from the surface of the earth.
Oh,
Do you still
nice.
have some of that quartz?
Yeah, it's all over my desk.
Okay.
Ooh.
Well, then let me ask you this. Do you think some of that energy from the farmhouse has been retained within the quartz that's on your desk right
Yes.
now? Okay.
That's why I have it.
That's why you have it. There you go.
Yes. I never give my stones away. I never gave any of my stones away. I'm a stone collector and always have been my whole life. And so is my mother, and so are all my sisters. And in fact, when we lost April, she always, wherever she went in life, she always brought all of her stones with her. And so we collected all of them from her yard and took them to my mother's house, and they live there now. And when I say they live there, I mean that. I feel like there's that stone has consciousness. It's just a consciousness that we don't understand. And it doesn't mean that they are Greg. We'll meet Greg. Yes, we will. Like for instance, this piece. This is
Ooh.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's one of my very favorite pieces, and I've had it for many, many years, and it grows. It's different now than when I first found it. Its spikes are a little longer, and they're absolutely perfect protrusions. And this one here, that wasn't there when I first got it. I think of stone as being alive. And I also was given a rare and beautiful gift, which I don't have right now because I considered it a healing stone. And so I left it with my mother when I was up there a few weeks ago, and I will gather it back the next time I go up. But a friend of mine, a producer, but who is also a friend of mine, went to... there were extraordinary crop circles in England this year, absolutely off the charts crop circles. And she went to one that had just dropped the night before. She and her partner were the first ones out there. And there were 4 stones in the center of it. And these were not indigenous to the area. They were not indigenous to England. They were different. It looked like there was something embedded in each one of them. And she said, I'm coming to... She's the one I met out in California to make the documentary. And when I got there, she walked over to me and she put this thing in my hand and closed my hand. And she said, I brought you a very special gift. And I opened my hand. I'm telling you, this thing was pulsing. It was changing colors. It looked like it had something almost like a seed in the middle of it. And it had 3 sides, and it looked like a pyramid. It looked just like
amazing.
a pyramid.
Oh.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And so I know that they were left for her to find, and that I was supposed to have one of them. And it's a very rare and precious gift. So, yeah, my mom's got it right now because she needed it more than I did. But I will get it back, and it will, go with my collection. I wish if I wasn't going to completely disrupt everything on my desk to turn it around and show you the top of my desk, you would be so impressed with my collection. You would. But yeah, there's something about stones, and it's an ancient thing. It's just an ancient thing. It touches something at the core of me. I never go anywhere that I don't collect a stone. When I'm up in Northwest Michigan, I make sure I go find a new Petoskey stone, which are very rare, and you only find them in Petoskey, Michigan. They don't exist anywhere else on the whole planet. So
when I was a kid, because I enjoy collecting stones too. When I was a kid on Lake Michigan, I was there with my aunt and her friend and her son, and we're getting some stones. I found fossils on Lake Michigan. It was amazing. But Sarah Youssef has actually threw a question down in here for me, but it's pertinent because she asked, Mike, do you still have that quartz piece? And what's interesting is, Andrea, you've been sitting here talking about the quartz from the farmhouse, and just before, like within 2 days of leaving to go to the farmhouse last September, it was September 20th that I was there, so it's almost exactly a year ago. Out in my backyard, now we have like a little, kind of rock garden area that borders the house, and I'm always out there feeding the birds and everything, and I'm always looking out the window watching the birds. But this one particular day, just before leaving for the farmhouse, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, here's this piece of quartz that's just down there amongst the rocks. It's like, where in the world did that come from? Because they're all just like, regular generic stones, but all of a sudden kind of magically appeared. Here's this piece of quartz, and you right now are talking about all this quartz from around the farmhouse. So I love these type of connections.
Do you still have it?
I do. It's in the other room, and so that's what Sarah was asking. Do I still have it? Of course, I still have it. I'm not going to go get it right now.
Oh, okay, fine. Yeah.
That's the word. That's the apropos word. Connections.
Right.
And I don't even know. I don't even need to know what the relevance or the significance of it is, because the gathering of stones, or sometimes the pilfering of stones, the borrowing of stones,
the appropriation
of stones touches something in me that is so deep, that feels absolutely ancient in me. And I don't know what it is. And my mother said that it comes from the Cherokee blood that pulses through my veins. She said that, she grew up doing the same thing that her mother did before her and her grandmother did before her. There were always, gardens of rocks and stones. I remember going when I was 5 years old to my mother's old home place on, they were sharecroppers, tenant farmers, and they had what most people would consider a shack. It was a house, but it was, not what most people would consider a proper house. It was just a wooden cabin, a 4-room cabin for a family of 6.
Wow.
And and a big front porch. And I remember, and 2 magnolia trees on either end of the porch. And the house was literally falling in on itself, which was a terrible shame. But I did get to walk into the place where my mother was raised.
Aww.
And I was just a little itty bitty thing. And when we came out, I remember seeing a stone that caught my eye, and I was wearing shorts with big pockets. And I started walking around all around the front porch between the two magnolia trees. And I was probably twice my weight by the time we left the house. And I remember thinking that my father would not appreciate what I was doing. So I snuck over to the car and I took them and I put them all up underneath the driver's seat, from behind, where he wouldn't see them and he wouldn't know they were there, so that when we got back home, I could offload all my rocks and he would never know that I had done it, only that he just got worse gas mileage going home than he got coming. And I still have all of them. I have thousands of stones that everywhere I have ever gone in my lifetime, I've brought something back of the earth with me.
That's funny you mentioned that, because I used to go hiking when I was in Arizona, and I would climb mountains and I would pick up rocks, beautiful rocks out there. I learned to get them only when I got to the top and down, because it was just too hard to go up the mountain with all these rocks. So I'd pick them up on the way down. But same thing. I have all these rocks. Red rocks of Arizona.
Fantastic.
It is. I think that it's part of our. It's part of our inner realm. It's part of our ancient DNA. When you think about it, is. And when you think about all the magnificent structures around the world that have been built from stone, hewn stone and shaved stone, and, all the arrowheads, the artifacts, my mother's got a collection. My sister Cindy too, a collection of arrowheads and artifacts that are amazing. And my mom was an archaeologist and a curator of a museum for years, and she would go on dig sites around Massachusetts and Connecticut. There was one particular dig site in Rehoboth that was such an extraordinary find. They dated things at that dig site back 10,000 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So, and she's got a few pieces of clay pot and stuff like that from there. And, and I think that it's a way for us to reconnect with our ancestors and connect with the earth in a really sentimental way. The little artifacts that we keep of our travels and that type of thing. But I also think that stone harbors energy, and it conducts energy.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And you mentioned going into some of these ancient buildings and sites, and I just know this past summer from being out in Egypt, you walk into those buildings and you absolutely feel the energy off of that stone. Of course, most of those buildings are granite, but But since we are talking energy again, and we were already previously talking about the energy there within the house, there is a photo that I do want to show you.
Oh, good.
I captured there at the house. It's looking for it. It's a second floor, looking from the middle bedroom toward your old bedroom, and you see this unusual shifting that's going on. Let me go ahead and post the photo, and you can see everything. I don't know how well you can see it, Andy.
Oh, I can see it.
Yeah. Everything in the front, like the bed, the chair, the rug, all that's perfectly clear. Once you get to that doorway, everything starts to shift to the right. And what is bizarre to me is the exterior window, not the interior one, but the exterior window that's actually behind the wall. You can see that in full form on the chalkboard.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely amazing to me. I've had several people look at this photo and they can't believe their eyes. And to me, I think this is a capture of that energy. It was just right on the other side of that window where I started feeling lightheaded while I was filming Keith Johnson, and I had to hand him the camera and take a moment there to recollect myself. But I know you've seen many things there, Andrea. This is where, Carl saw the smoke coming from that doorway, and I know you've seen things like that around there too. What do you think of it when you see something like this? I mean, is this that? Do you think maybe this is that type of energy that you were experiencing there, you and your family?
Well, I've always described the farm as a portal cleverly disguised as a farmhouse.
Hmm.
And I think that there is a lot of shifting, a lot of moving. I don't even sense that there's any kind of being associated with that. I think it's just, I saw things like that many times living. It was almost like my eyes were a camera, and everything suddenly went out of focus for a moment, and then would come back. And we got used to it. We learned to live with it. It was almost like we were either being projected back in time, or there was something there that wanted to present, and that was as much as it could. I don't know. I mean, we're all guessing, really.
Right.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, please don't ever call me an expert in the paranormal. There is no such thing. There just is no such thing.
But you were experiencing things like time slips there. So
Yes.
you think this energy, and I always love that term, portal cleverly disguised as a farmhouse. This is what I ended up titling the I think it was the third or fourth episode of the Shadow Dimension. And is it maybe through this energy that things are moving interdimensionally, from one place in time to another, from one place in the universe to another, and coming to that farmhouse?
Yes, it was not only alive with death. It was like a series of dimensions that existed there simultaneously. And we would shift from one to the next and then shift back. And sometimes it was very quick, and sometimes it seemed to take its time. And, it's like I tell people, I didn't write the books from the moment that we step on the property till the moment that we leave, from partially into volume 1 to about halfway through volume 3. The stories are intermingled like smoke, just wafting off a fire pit, and just interconnecting in lovely ways, and dancing, and sparks and embers flying with no seeming order. And I know that it's a challenge to read it because of that, for those who are only able to think linearly, to just everything's got to be chronological. Well, that's not the way it felt living there. And it's not the way I was compelled to write the books. I wrote more about, with the expectation that, anyone would understand that everything I wrote happened within the 10 years that we lived there. And that they would understand the timeline, at the end, but that it was more about the type of energy, the type of manifestations, the kind of haunting that was happening. So each chapter is broken down into a series of subchapters that goes deeply into this. And you might see references in chapter 3 that you'll also revisit in chapter 6 or chapter 7. And what I want my reader to do is go, wow, how many times did that happen? Just pause and reflect on it for a moment. How many times did that happen? A case in point would be Cindy hearing the voices over and over again. There are 7 dead soldiers buried in the wall. It never even occurred to us that it might be the stone walls outside. It never occurred to us. That was, Corey and Jen that kind of extrapolated that out. And had somebody go and, put the radar thing into the ground and start searching for anomalies underground. But when I was writing the books, she came to the house one day And I was toward the end of volume 3, and I was trying to get her story down, her essay, and she wanted me to do it as a Q&A, that it would be easier for her than writing it herself, because she thought that she'd be able to respond to my questions more effectively. And at one point I asked her, Sin, how many times did you hear the voices telling you about the 7 dead soldiers? And suddenly her eyes just welled with tears, and she looked up at me from the sofa and she said, thousands.
Oh.
Wow.
And it just knocked me back in my chair. You know, I was just trying to type as fast as she was speaking to capture everything that she shared. But thousands, you know, we never knew the sense of timelessness that we had living at that farmhouse was something that, even though I know it's challenging, you know, for those that get it, you know, that really get where I'm going with this, they appreciate being knocked back on their heels. They appreciate the challenge, because I really do firmly believe that that's part of the process of opening the third eye. And it seems to me that the more you allow yourself to just experience the story with the framework of that farmhouse around it, the more you have the same sensation that we did living there. You know, we didn't know if it was 1976 or 1842 or 1787 when these manifestations occurred. You know, we could barely even place them according to the kind of clothing that some of these entities were wearing. And they were so different, and they were from different time periods. And we don't know if they were related. Only one spirit in that house ever self-identified. Only one. And it was the little boy that April made friends with.
Right.
And he told her that his name was Oliver Richardson. And she said that he died when he was 5 years old. And that was the original family that built that farm. And through marriage, it became the Arnold estate, because women back then were not allowed to own property.
Right. Now, Victoria, I've kind of dominated the questions so far, so
I'm enjoying it. No,
you're enjoying it. Okay, all right.
I'm being a spectator, but no.
No, all right, that's
I'm
fine.
drinking
We
from
do
my
have
New Michigan mug that I stole
Oh,
from
there
my
you go.
father. It was one of his birthday presents, and I'm like, no, I like that. That's mine now.
Nice. Well, we do have some questions from the chat room that I want to go ahead and put forth here then. From Brennan1243. Annie, do you think that if another family of 7 moved into the house without the knowledge of its history, the manifestations would be the same or different?
I don't know. I think there is something very magical about that number 7. And it keeps popping up over and over and over again. It took me 7 years to write the books. You know, that wasn't planned. That's just how it worked out. I don't know. I think that every group of people will bring their own energy to it, their own different individual energy to it. But I think that that would probably activate the house more. I know that when Corey and Jen have their kids there, the house is more active. The more people there, the more the spirits, I think, have an opportunity to draw energy from the living beings around them. But children particularly seem to, I don't know if it's because they were sucking the energy out of us, or if we just had an ability to see them more clearly than adults, you know, who have a tendency to pinch that third eye closed as they become adults, or if it was a combination of the two. But there's something about kids being at that house. And when we had friends over, and sometimes we had a lot of friends over, it would get very active. I mean, it would sound like bodies were dropping on the floor overhead, and doors were slamming, and lights were going on and off. And I never knew if it meant get the hell out or, oh, it's party time. You know, I mean, you just never knew what it was responding to, why it was reactive. You know, and I mean, why the house was reactive. And how many spirits were present in it simultaneously, or if they just kind of came and went, or if they were always there, but once they were able to build up enough energy to actually manifest and form, you know, and make their presence known that way, that they would do that. But I mean, there was almost a vampiric quality about the place. I mean, we would come in the house and we'd be having, as a family, having a wonderful day, doing all kinds of things, you know, out on the pond or swimming down at the creek, or, you know, going sledding or whatever. And we would come back in the house, and it was like we all went into a coma simultaneously. You know, Mom would come in expecting that, you know, she would start dinner, but everybody had to just lay down for a while. The house, there was almost something oppressive about it. And I often wondered if it was a way that we were just being punished for having left it for any period of time. You know, and there were times that we would go away for a whole day. We'd go to Rocky Point, or we'd go, you know, out on the ocean. You know, we'd go away for an entire day. And we would come home, and that house would smell like it had 10 corpses in it.
Cool.
Oh, wow.
The rotting stench of death. We'd have to open up every door, every window, no matter what time of year, and clear the smell, the odor of death in that house. And it would happen predominantly when we would go away and be gone for a period of time and then come home. And it felt like punishment. It did. And it would make my father very angry and very disconcerted. And we could have been having a wonderful day where there was a lot of laughter and light and love. And we would come home, and suddenly Dad was in a horrible mood, and everybody scattered to get away from that negative energy. And there would be something that would inevitably happen that would set him off. And my mother would get very anxious, and the whole dynamic of the family would change. The whole mood of the family would change. And then everybody would just find a place to crash, and we would sleep. It's very strange. You know, I can't tell you how many times I went to school exhausted in the morning, absolutely exhausted. And, you know, even the bus driver would say, "Did you get any sleep last night?" You know, my teachers would be like, you know, "Are you okay?" You know, and I couldn't say, well, you know, there was something pacing around in my room all night long. I couldn't sleep. You know, I was watching it, keeping an eye on it so that it didn't disturb my sisters or go after my parents. It would, you know,
You couldn't say things like that back then.
No, well, you know, I did say a few things like that back then, and I was a straight A goody two-shoes student that almost got expelled for talking about it, and so I shut my mouth.
So what do you feel when you go back to the house now?
Joy.
Yeah.
The sense of peace and calm and being so welcome. And I know how much the spirits appreciate me. When I finished the final draft of what was supposed to just be one book, it was in March of 2010. I had started writing it in August of 2007. And I went to the house and I showed the current, the former owner, who shall not be named, what I had done. And, you know, she praised my effort. She knew very well that I was writing the story of the house, even though she said publicly that I never told her anything about it, or that there was ever going to be a movie.
I saw YouTube videos of you two walking through the house together talking about the stories. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know. Yeah. Apparently she forgot that we made those, or the movie coming, or any of that. I guess she forgot. That was the first time that I went back to the farm that I felt like I was literally being embraced by the place. Like, good job, good job, Anne, that you told our story. And I did tell their story to the very best of my ability. The trilogy wasn't written to be history books. It's a memoir, and it's a collective memoir of my entire family. You had input into it. I didn't print a word of it until every story that involved each and every one of them hadn't been read through to make sure that it was as accurate as it could possibly be. All that mattered to me was that the truth come to light, that it be authentic, and that it be accurate to the best of our recollection, each individually. And I accomplished that. But the thing that the telling of the story actually accomplished with, the multitude of readers that have been through it now. I published the first book more than 10 years ago. I mean, I don't know where that decade went, but, more than 10 years ago, March of 2011 is when the first book came out. And what it has done for people, I think, more than anything, is that it has liberated them to tell their own tales,
Okay, let me
tell
ask you.
their own experiences.
Go ahead, Victoria.
It sounds like, from everything you've been describing, the house needs a certain level of euphoria, and the children would bring it in. It's like Christmas morning, and we're opening up all the packages. And when you're gone, it didn't have that level. So when you came back, I don't think it was punishing you. It was just drawing on what it needed. Does that sound right?
Well, I don't know, because we visited the house many times when Mr. Kenyon was still the formal owner.
Mm-hmm.
And none of us ever remember seeing anything, smelling anything strange, seeing any interdimensional anything. There was nothing untoward about the house. It seemed the metamorphosis of the house occurred when we were there.
But maybe it was happy to see you, and it drew off that. It was glad to see you. Like your family's coming home again.
I know that my mother had to ask permission for the house to let us go. Mm-hmm. And I thought I would live in that house my whole life. I did. It never occurred to me that my parents would sell it. And it certainly never occurred to me that they would sell it during my senior year of college, where I was working on a thesis and taking a bajillion courses and cramming everything into my brain that I could in my senior year. And without even consulting me, without even letting me know that they had put it on the market, I didn't get a call. Well, nobody ever called. And the house was very, very fairly priced, under market. And it ended up being that my dad went and met with the abutting landowners and gave them the deal of the century just to offload it, because my mother said that she wouldn't survive another winter there, that she had to go. And I was devastated, absolutely devastated. I couldn't believe that house was sold out from underneath me, when I thought that was my birthright and my legacy, and that our family would just live there forever. And half of us never wanted to go back, and half of us never wanted to leave. And selling that farm fractured my family. We never lived together under the same roof again when we left it, because Nancy was so angry that she refused to leave. And yet when she went to the new owners, that she was their primary babysitter. And she went to them and she said, I know you want to do some work to the house. I'll stay there indefinitely as the caretaker. Because they lived, as the crow flies, like a mile behind the house in Massachusetts. Okay. So, you know, it was, they were taking two large pieces of property and putting them together. And so they said, oh, that's great. Well, Eddie moved in with her. Eddie Richardson moved in with her. After we left, I was 21, she was 20. And what had been a peaceful, loving, truly engaging relationship in every conceivable way. We just all knew Nancy and Eddie were going to get married. There was just no question about that. That house changed him. And he became violent, physically abusive, verbally abusive. Wow. Nancy had to end the relationship, and she told him he had to leave, and he got in his car and drove up to Mabel Alvison's house up on West Road, about 1.5 miles from the farm, and shot himself. Oh. And it was horrible. It was horrible. It was just absolutely devastating for the whole family, because we felt like he was a part of our family. And he was one of the last of the Richardsons, and almost everyone in his family had died. Very bizarre, tragic deaths, very bizarre deaths, including one of his sisters had been decapitated by the falling out of a boat and getting sucked up underneath the engine, the wheels of, right on the lake that I lived on. I lived on Waterman Lake in Harmony, Rhode Island, and that's where that accident happened. You know, just bizarre things. Very unfortunate what the Richardsons endured. You know, and you wonder, you know, if it's karmic. You wonder if it's, you know, what is it? What is it? I mean, there's so many more questions than answers. I don't think we're even supposed to have the answers.
Not all of them. I mean, we try to get answers for our questions. I don't think we're going to get them all, but we have one last question here from, and there are a lot of questions from the viewers, but I'm going to do this last one because it does relate to family. Again. No, you're good. But from Jonathan A. Andrea, do you think you're connected to the house from another life?
Yes, and that's Jonathan Altieri, and he already knows the answer to that question. He's just putting it out there to see if I'll talk about it some more.
Well, but you know, it's pertinent for some of the other listeners that
it is.
That are
it is, and he knows that. I love you, Jonathan, and I love Brennan too. You know, I'm so glad that some of my people came over tonight, or we share them. We could just share them.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yes, I feel that. I don't know. It's hard to answer because part of me feels like this is the first and the only time that I've ever been on Earth, because it all feels so very foreign to me. And yet I feel like I have a soul connection to that house, and possibly even based on what I've seen there, possibly even a reincarnation connection to that house. I saw an apparition there on the hearthstone of the fireplace when I was 17 years old. That was the spitting image of me, like mirror image reflection of me as an old woman.
Interesting.
And, you know, and I don't know. I mean, you know, there are some people in the paranormal that say, you know, use words like doppelganger and use words like, you know, say that spirits can create the vision that they want you to see of them. Well, you know, I don't know. All I know is that we had the same exact facial features. She had a head full of gray hair that was as long as mine was when it was a child. And when she smiled at me, I felt a sense of knowing and belonging to that house that I had never felt before that. And when I told my mother about it the day we moved out, she got tears in her eyes and she said, I always knew we bought this house for you.
That's amazing. And yeah, when it comes to the whole doppelganger thing, what I generally think about that in most cases is that we're seeing ourselves at another point in time. That's not this like evil twins sort of thing, but we're actually, it's like a slip in time, and we're actually seeing ourselves. So,
Yeah.
well, we're at the end of our hour. We're actually past a little bit. It went
I'm
quick.
sorry. I
No,
thought we
no
had
need to
till
apologize.
11. I would have
No.
abbreviated some of my
That's
commentary.
okay.
No, it's the journey.
That's right. That's right. No, it's always fantastic with you, Annie. And that's why we bring you back all the time, is because we have so much to talk about.
I know. We always just barely scratch the surface.
Right.
And, you know, it's always a joy for me to join both of you. I love you dearly. And I thank you, and I thank your viewers and your listeners. You know, it is all part of the journey, and it's a sacred journey of exploration and enlightenment. So I'm always happy to take that with you, get on that path with you both.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And one more time, where people can find you and your upcoming events. And I'm going to see you this week in Mass Paracon, which is going to be great.
I know. I can't wait. Oh, I'm going to squeeze you till your stuffing pops out.
Can you record that? Record that for us, will you?
I know, because we only got a few minutes at Michigan, so this will be.
I know.
It'll be great to catch up. Yeah.
I know. It was literally a few minutes, and one really good picture. Yes. The best way to get in touch with me is to contact my Lynn Ann Bowling, at Buttercup Brigade, which is my fan page. That's my girl right there.
There's
and she will always know how to reach me. If somebody needs to contact me directly, or if they want books, or, you know, whatever they want, she's my go-to girl. And, or you can just Google my name. I'm on Facebook. I have a main page, and then 4 others: House of Darkness, House of Light, In a Flicker, A World Awakening, which is my show. And yeah, I'm kind of everywhere, omnipresent. So it's pretty easy to find me. And, you know, anybody that's listening in that wants to join me on Thursday nights for A World Awakening, I do a show with my producer, Tony Rathman, who is God's gift to production. I mean, he's just
Tony's
amazing.
a great guy. Yeah.
He is. So yeah, I'm everywhere. I'm really easy to find, and everyone is welcome. All aboard the mothership.
All right. Sweet. And for those of us joining us new tonight, please go ahead and subscribe to the Edge of the Rabbit Hole YouTube channel, where Andrea is every Thursday night. We're every Tuesday night. So you can fit us both into your schedules. So.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Annie, thank you so very, very much for joining us once again this evening. Absolutely appreciate it.
My
It's
pleasure.
good to see you.
You too, sweetheart. We'll talk again soon. Okay.
Yeah. And I'll see you this weekend.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Oh, she's awesome.
All right. Oh, she is. She is absolutely
She leaves you with
awesome.
a good feeling. You know? I was telling some friends at work that today. I was like, oh, I just love talking to her. She just makes you feel so good. Yeah.
She does. She does. I mean, she always has a like big smile on your face. She gives you the biggest hug, makes you feel like $1,000,000. And
not cyberly. Awesome. No hugs. No. One day.
There you go. All right. So let's go ahead. Well, thank you, Alina, for moderating the chat this evening. Absolutely appreciate it. We have Andrea's website that is scrolling along the bottom, the House of Darkness, House of Light website. Also for the Docu-Series, which first 4 episodes is concentrated on the Conjuring House. So check that out. You can watch for free on tubetv.com, or you can add the app to your phone or your smart TV or whatever, and you can actually watch it for free. So check that out. And yeah, we have exclusive interview footage there from Andrea, and even in the 6th episode, the last one, she has some really great quotes there at the very, very end. So definitely check all that out. All right, so let's get to the shout outs and everything. Alina, thank you so much for moderating the chat. You sent me a ton of questions from everybody. Sorry we didn't get to them all, but it happens.
It's the journey.
We got to several. It's the journey. It's the journey.
Yeah.
All right. So over here on YouTube, let's check out the participants tab. Let's see. We had Betty Lange, grand old folks. Thanks for joining us tonight. There's Brennan1243. Thanks for joining us for your questions as well. Debbie08. Thanks for joining us once again. There's Haunted Road Media's Fairy Queen Diane Hilbert. Thank you very much. Greg Kost, thanks for joining us tonight. And Helen Espinoza, always great to see you. Jill Nimchinsky, thank you once again. Jonathan A., hey, good to see you down there in the chat. Thanks for the questions. Julie Claire, and I've met Jonathan. Julie Claire, thanks for joining us tonight. Lynn Bowling, always wonderful to see you. And I just met Lynn for the first time in Michigan, so that was great because I've known Lynn online for years. Melissa Blackman in KC, thank you for joining us tonight. There's NA, thank you as always. Sarah Youssef, thank you as always as well. And for your questions, Sharon Lane, good to see you down there, Sharon. Been a little while. Always good to see you. Stanton's Journeys, that's Christopher Stanton. Great to see you, buddy. Tammy Heitzman, thank you as well. Terry Shana, thanks for joining us tonight. TFT Tarot for Today, great to see you. And Thayer, good to see you as well. So a lot of people in the house. I know Adam Tiller's got to be lurking down there.
You know who I saw go by? Fungi.
Was Fungi there? Okay, then we'll do the Fungi.
Woo-hoo!
All right.
Fun girl.
And yeah, fun girl. So, and then,
there he is.
Yeah, on Tubi. Nice to have that. Yeah. And there's Adam Tillery. Adam Tillery's team beat mine this past weekend. Chiefs beat the Browns. We were winning most of the game, and then they kind of blew it at the end. But,
that's football, right?
Oh, well. That's football for you.
Yeah. Oh, no, baseball.
Yeah. Well, my baseball team, the Red Sox, are falling apart, so we don't even talk about that.
Goldschmidt hit 2 home runs. That's all I'm saying. No.
And not for your team.
No, well,
Let me see who else was in here with us tonight. Kind of scroll back through it. Sam Baltrusis was in the house.
Oh.
Let me scroll up here and get his comment. So yeah, Sam. He's the guy that put. There he is. So he's the one that put Mass Paracon together. He's also in the Shadow Dimension. And he was just Dave Schrader, Chris Fleming, and I forget the girl's name. They just had the Lizzie Borden documentary come out on Discovery Plus, same night that we had Alaska Triangle came out. So it was a bunch of stuff going on this past Friday. And then Sam will be on the show in October to talk about that Lizzie Borden documentary as well. So,
bucket list.
Yep. Better watch it before we interview him. So that'll be a good show.
I'm gonna have some time on my hands, so.
Yeah. Let's see. We also had Andrew and his Trucking Gnomes. Let's see. Diana Erickson, thanks for joining us tonight. And let's see. Dwight Lewis, thank you very much. Mark T. Wells. And we had a lot of people join us this evening, so we really do appreciate all that. Jolene Forsyth, thanks for joining us tonight. All right, so that is going to do it, because I'm not going to scroll all the way back up and get the 1,000 names that we had in there. we try to get as many in there as we can, but with Andrea, we always get a ton of people, which is fantastic. So
she's amazing.
She really is. She really is. So rest of this month, we have Damian Knott coming on next week. He had some technical issues last time we tried to get him on a couple months ago. Hopefully they're all cleared up. He does Australian UFOs. He's from Australia. So Australian aerial phenomenon next week. And then to wrap up September 28th, we have Shane Pittman. From Holzer Files. So and I met Shane for the first time in Michigan a few weeks back. Great guy. We talked a lot. So it'd be great to have Shane on. So even though Holzer Files is done now, that's what we were going to talk about. Originally it was mostly Holzer Files, and we will. But he has another project coming up here soon too. So we'll try to see what kind of information we can get out of him.
Exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is. Following that, though, we have a couple of weeks off on Edge of the Rabbit Hole because I am going to be traveling for a couple of conferences out west, New Mexico, Las Cruces, and Vulture City. So fun stuff.
I'll be at the beach.
Victoria's going to be at the beach.
I'll be at the beach.
All right, so that's going to do it, everybody. Tomorrow night, Wednesday, is let me get the banner up here. Connected Universe Portal. Join us, connecteduniverseportal.com. We've been doing a lot of Alaska Triangle stuff here lately because, of course, the second season just came out for that on Friday. So we've been covering a lot of that. But tomorrow, we're going to be doing... actually, I had two different ideas for tomorrow, and I can't remember the second right now. But I'm thinking we're going to... But the woolly mammoth will only take us like 10 minutes.
It'll be a fantastic 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, we have an hour to fill. So
Do it 6 times now.
yeah. Well, didn't we briefly cover woolly mammoths? I don't know if it was last week or the week before, because we've done like back-to-back Alaska Triangle classes.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was an article you posted today about how they're trying to bring it back.
Yeah, that was a little different. And see, that would add like 2 minutes to the 10, so we'd get 12 minutes out of it.
It's the woolly mammoth, man.
So I'm trying to think what the second thing was. Well, one thing I was thinking about doing was ley lines. I'm kind of having to throw something together because of everything that I've been doing with trying to get the Alaska Triangle book out, and then have conferences I've been doing. It's just been very, very busy. But ley lines, earth energy grid, that sort of thing, because that kind of ties right into everything we've been doing with the Alaska Triangle. So that, and what was the second idea?
Hollow Earth?
No.
Well, I'm going to slip it in there one of these days,
All right.
Okay.
So, all right, everybody, that will do it for tonight. So, yeah, join us tomorrow night. ConnectedUniversePortal.com for Connecting the Universe interactive class. And then, if you're in Massachusetts, in New England, somewhere, come out to Mass Paracon this coming weekend. Andrea is going to be there. I'm going to be there. Sam is going to be there. A whole bunch of people. So, that'll do it. All right, everybody. Have a great night.
Night.